CMPradio.net, man. You already know it's the station. I am live here at the Cultivating Mature Positivity Studios. And listen. So, a friend of mine gave me a call a couple days ago. I was like, P, I need you to come out here and record this town hall I want to do. Sure, no problem. Now, you know, if you're my friend, right, you're somebody that I can depend on, somebody that you can depend on, me being that person, I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to show up whenever you need me. And it's not about no money. It's just about you being able to talk. You being able to say what's on your mind, what's happening in your community. You see, CMPradio.net, the voice of Chester, is not just the voice of Chester. It could be the voice of Sharon Hill. It could be the voice of Upper Darby. It could be the voice of Delaware County, right? So when I was asked to do it, no problem. Shoot up there. I didn't know all the things that were happening up there in Upper Darby. Kind of reminds me of, but not really. It's not exactly like, but, you know. But one thing I did learn is that when you are in office, you are subjugated to listening to the people that voted you in. You see, because you're a public servant, right? And when you are a public servant, you serve the public. You do not belittle, bash, disrespect the people that voted you in, right? Whether or not they voted you in or not, right? They are a part of the public. And I think sometimes we get high on our horse and we feel as though we can be disrespectful to anybody that challenges us. See, because you're not in a leadership position. You're not a king. This wasn't something that was handed to you. You went around in the community and promised them things. You told them, this is the type of leader I am going to be. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is how I'm going to help you. So I sat there and I listened to about 7 or 8 people tell live, the creative video. Couldn't go live, right? Wi-Fi wasn't acting right. Again, I apologize for that. But everything that was going on and has been going on in their community since COVID. So this video that I'm about to show you real quick. First, let me show you what Rich did, right? Because it was real simple. So he went to Upper Darby's mayor and he called him out for being a Dallas Cowboys fan. Right? Everybody that know the Eagles are the Eagles. Go Birds, right? And we are extremely excited to have Super Bowl champions, right? But what he did was he went in during a city council meeting and he called the mayor of Upper Darby a Cowboys fan. Everybody knows the Cowboys, 29 years, haven't won anything. But let's listen to how he did this, right? Because it was real simple.
Upper Darby Township, when you elect a Cowboys fan to your government, 29 years of losing with this team, what do you expect with the leadership? This is a Cowboys fan. This guy follows the Cowboys. You see what type of leadership they have, and that's what you put your trust in. A Cowboys fan. Sickening.
That was my guy, Rich Block. So he called me up. He was like, P, listen, man, I want to go live. And I was like, I'm going to see if I can do it. Don't know if it's possible. But see, what's possible is that I go and record your thing, and then I go live with it. So today on the Cultivating Mature Positivity podcast, we're going to show you that video. It's an hour and a half. It's some good information. If you're from Upper Darby, then you know what's going on. If you're not from Upper Darby, then it's time to listen, pay attention, and learn how you in your community can change the government that's governing it, can hold them accountable. Because what else is a public servant but a servant of the public, right? You're supposed to be doing what we need you to do. So let's tune in. Let's watch. Any questions, throw them in the chat. I'm sure Rich is watching. I'm sure his people are watching. I want to say they were very hospitable. They were very nice. They were very kind. Yeah, it was a pleasure to be down there. So, yeah, cmpradio.net, man. It's your boy, Uncle P. And, yeah, we're going to watch that video. I want y'all to be safe. cmpradio.net, man. It's your boy, Uncle P, and I am here at the American Legion. Give me the number again. 214. Don't want to disrespect the American Legion, man. I'm in Upper Darby. That's right. Yeah, I said it. I'm in Upper Darby. I'm not in Chester today. My man, Rich Bly, called me on the phone and said, yo, P, I need you to come out here. We need to do a podcast. And, you know, as always, I'm always available. What's up, Rich? How you feeling, brother?
Hey, what's happening, bro? You know, I'm feeling great. As usual, it's a pleasure to be back on the air with cmpradio.net. Miss you guys on Tuesdays. Looking forward to coming back real soon. We got a whole variety of topics to talk about, bro.
That's
How
dope.
you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. You know, dealing with all the festivities, and my Eagles won the Super Bowl, right? I know I don't have my green on, so I apologize, but I am an Eagles fan. It's tatted all over me, right?
Right.
I don't want to show y'all my body, but I am super excited because, you know, you went viral, bro.
I know.
Like, calling out the mayor on being a Cowboys fan. I don't even know how that happened.
Well, first of all, let me start off this podcast by saying locally, nationally, and internationally that the Philadelphia Eagles, their organization, any of their affiliates, anybody associated with them, employees, so forth and such, are not affiliated with this podcast or any of the content in it, even though that we are wearing our Eagles green in support of our team and the colors that we wear and the logos that we have. They are our property since we bought them, but they are not express views of the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, so forth and so on, so that nobody can go back and say, oh, are they endorsing them for their views and opinions? And that answer is no.
I like that. That was very good. Right. Go Birds.
As always, it is Go Birds. I'm a born and raised Philadelphian. I moved here to Upper Darby about 27 years ago. I've raised my family here, sent my children to school here. I've worked here, worked on 69th Street, worked at the 69th Street movie theater. I've contributed to many various organizations and helped a lot of people that live in the community before I got involved with coming to Upper Darby Township council meetings. Before I get into the why this occurred the way that it did, I know that a lot of people, including the Philadelphia Inquirer, Channel 6 Action News, Axios Cable, several other people hit me up for statements as to why I referenced the Cowboys towards the mayor, and I politely declined because I felt as though that cmpradio.net, which is a local radio station here in Delaware County, Chester, the first city, deserved to do the exclusive interview and meet some of the participants as to why we're here. So I'm going to go to my left, and I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves as we always do at every council meeting.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Namavong, and I also am a long resident of Upper Darby. I moved here in 1993, raised my 5 children here. My kids went off to the schools here. I got involved in Upper Darby politics as a resident concerned person in 2022 when I heard that there was some missing money possibly. So that's when I started to get involved, and I have been coming since to every meeting, trying to keep our council accountable. And I'll pass it on to John.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Vizzari. I am also a longtime Upper Darby Township resident. Been here since 1993 as well. And I've started coming to the Upper Darby Council meetings back in 2020, online when we were doing it through Zoom and submitting comments. But then when it was opened up to come back into the council room, I've come to the council room because of the missing money and started tracking the missing money, holding them accountable to it, and calling out where they had errors and things of that nature. So trying to keep them on point and accountable.
My name is Shelley Hoyt, and I am a longtime resident of Upper Darby, moved in 1978, raised three of my 5 children here. My 3 oldest have gone all through the Upper Darby school systems. Their children are going through the school system as well. I started coming to the meetings in 2022 because of the missing money.
Hi, my name's Becky Duggan. I guess I'm a newbie to Upper Darby Township. I've only lived here since 2010. I started going to the council meetings when we had heard that there was missing money, and Joanne said, we have to go find out what's happening. And I said, oh, a council meeting? But it's really important, and there's a lot of information that a lot of people need to know about that's happening, because so many people don't follow it, so they don't know how messed up things really are. And we're trying to make sure people find out what is really going on and not just scratch the surface, but see what really the problems we have.
So, Becky, we're going to stay with you, seeing as though the mic's in front of you, and then we're going to swing back around. What are some, or at least 1 or 2 things that really sticks out to you when you come to council meetings and you're hearing council members, you're hearing the former representative in your district who left, Mr. Andrew Heyman, knowing what you had to battle through just to find out basic information? How does that make you feel as a constituent? How does that make you feel as a tax-paying resident?
Wow. You know, extremely disrespected and extremely, used. They just want your money. They don't care about your input. Just make sure you pay them their money and shut up. I asked the mayor, gave him an idea one time, said this is maybe how we should do things, and he told me that's not how government works. The residents don't get to tell us what to do. We do what we're going to do.
So basically, Mr. Brown, Cowboys fan,
Yeah.
sickening, is basically telling folks that the Constitution doesn't matter, that it doesn't matter, it's frivolous and trivial to him?
It seemed to be, because when I was up to speak at a council meeting, at a public hearing, they told me I wasn't allowed to speak, that it was closed, even though that is not true. They denied me my right to speak.
So
Violated my right.
So a lot of folks, when they say my rights got violated, do they really understand the document that governs Upper Darby Township? Do they really understand that the people are in control of their own destiny in their own township? And if they don't understand it, what do you think that you want to say to folks when it comes to understanding that document known as the Home Rule Charter?
I don't think I don't think a lot of people on council have read the Home Rule Charter. I don't think they care about it. They obviously don't, because every time something comes up and they're told this violates the Home Rule Charter, they go, oh, well, no, it'll be okay. And they don't really pay attention to it or listen to it. And people, it was written for a reason, and things were written down that way to keep things straight so we don't get into all these messes that we found ourselves, like having a 14-cent not income tax, a 14-cent real estate tax, right?
I want to stop you there, because this is very interesting for folks that pay taxes and understand the millage rates and have to pay their taxes on time. How did we come to 14 cents on a tax bill? I mean,
Well, that would be an algebra question for Joanne and
oh,
John.
then we'll
I-
listen. Then we'll come back to
I don't do
Joanna's
the math,
because
as
you know
everybody well knows.
we have a lot of superstars here at the table. I want everybody to know that. But we'll come back to that. And we'll swing back to that.
Yeah, I don't do the math.
So, Shelly. Hi.
Hi.
Shelly. So, I mean, in your own words, how does it feel to be a tax-paying resident citizen of Upper Darby Township after the way that you've been treated?
I feel invisible. I feel like, I was born in the 60s, 1960, and back then, Jewish people were kind of like shunned and whatever. They thought we had tails. Well, standing before this dais, I feel like I'm getting treated the way our families had back in the day. Like, we don't matter. What we say doesn't count. And like Becky was saying, the Home Rule Charter, James Gallagher, the solicitor that we have at the moment, said there are other laws other than the Home Rule Charter.
Now, I'm going to interject real quick. So when they say that there are other laws other than the Home Rule Charter, are they talking about sunshine laws?
I don't think he even knows what he meant. I think he was just saying it. I wanted to tell him, well, yes, you have to stop at a red light, and stop signs with the white border really aren't optional. I don't think he actually has a clue of what is going on.
So basically, from the standpoint of understanding the law, Upper Darby Township is virtually rudderless when it comes to legal discussions on how things are supposed to be done from a constituent and citizen's point of view, in your opinion.
Exactly. Like, what we say doesn't matter, even though we are paying their salaries, and some of them very exorbitant salaries, and they think they're worth so much more. I have not seen any benefits from them being in office yet.
Now, like you said, you've been here for a number of years.
1978.
What services specifically do you see missing for the past, I would say, 8 years?
Okay, I was going to say street sweeping, but I did see one the other day. I passed him as he was driving down the street. Not
Right.
sweeping, but I did see him on the road.
Okay.
Let me see, what else? Oh, license and inspection. We used to be able to go pay our, $10 or $20 for a license, get it, and get the work done, and the inspector would come back and check. Now, we pay somebody twice of what they used to make, and they don't even go out and look at the work. They want the people to take pictures of their job beforehand and of the finished product. That doesn't make sense to me.
So you feel like you're working for them to work for them, and you're paying them for
Exactly.
your do-it-yourself project.
Exactly. And it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, yes, I don't have a degree in government, but it doesn't make sense.
I think everybody's degree in government is the United States Constitution, along with the Declaration of Independence. That's how I feel
Exactly.
about that. So we're going to slide over to John. And John, you have been what, in military terms, you have been our scribe. You have diligently put together a package of information in chronological order that the likes I've never seen. You've also been hit with a lawsuit with the mayor about his sullying his reputation. And how many pounds was that, the paperwork that they sent you?
Well, that was just a letter, Rich. That was a letter that was sent to us with regards to, I think it's called a Dragonetti letter,
Okay.
which is to intimidate us into stopping our lawsuit against the township. So threatening us that if we don't withdraw the lawsuit, they would sue us for defamation of character or what was the other? Emotional distress and
So
things
hold
of
on.
that
So wait a
nature.
minute. So the mayor, Ed Brown, Cowboys fan, is emotionally distressed
Yes.
by citizens asking him to follow the Home Rule Charter. That's basically in a nutshell. That's what he's suing you for.
Correct. But let's not just limit it to Mayor Brown, because if you recall, when Keffer was in office and she had her little incident with her DUI, she blamed us who came to the meetings, every meeting, to call them to the carpet and tell them what they're not doing right. She blamed her alcoholism on the residents.
That's, again, there's really only one word when you hear this, and that word is sickening. It's absolutely sickening that the residents and the taxpayers and the stakeholders of Upper Darby Township have, from the previous mayor, you would think that it would improve. You would think that we would get something better, but instead it went from mentor to mentee.
Yeah,
Pretty much a hand-picked selection from
definitely a hand-picked selection.
from the Delco Dems
and Barbara Ann Keffer herself.
and Barbara Ann Keffer herself.
He even said that Barbara Ann mentored him and trained, showed him the ropes.
So, again, since 2022, you've been coming to the meeting, Shelley.
Correct.
And there was actually a special report that was conducted by the special solicitor at that time that came with some conclusions, if I'm not mistaken. September 14, 2022. Does that date sound familiar?
Yes.
Before we get to the numbers, because no, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Let's go right back to let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we almost paid 14 cents in a tax bill.
So I guess that was January 24. Or December. They couldn't pass a tax ordinance. They really had trouble doing that. They put forth an ordinance. They wanted to present it many different ways. They insisted upon it telling us how many pennies on every $100 it was. The problem is they don't know how to. They forgot their fourth grade math when they told them how decimal points work, and they pushed them to the wrong. They pointed them the wrong way. So instead of a $1,400 tax bill, it would have been a 14-cent tax bill. Now, I and several of others of us tried to explain it to them. They could not understand. They insisted that I was confused. I actually spent the day of that meeting, and I remembered back to when my kids were in school, and they had to do these, they're not complicated, but, where you have to change units on a math problem. And I showed them how to change from the way they were presenting it one way to the second way and how they were going to come out to 14 cents. I went step by step, okay? Had a packet, 3 pages, big printing so they could read it. I made them all before I came. I handed them out. And I acted like a school teacher. That's what I was. I was a school teacher that night teaching them math. And I just thought it was pathetic that I had to teach them math. And during my presentation, before the meeting and at the beginning of the meeting, I was told, "You're confused," by Ms. Dobbins and the finance director at the time. Then a bell went off, and somebody ran over to the mayor and said, "Oops." So I guess they ended up fixing it. I left my 14 cents on the podium that night, but they didn't take it. That's one of many of the mathematical debacles that are going on in this township. One of many.
So, circling back around, and there's many others that have come to Upper Darby Township Council meetings that have experienced the same type of apathy, disrespect. Many of you on this panel have been called racist. Many of you on this panel have been called drug users. Many of you on this panel have been called drug dealers. You've been called obstructionists. I mean, I'm astounded because aren't you the guys that went into your own pockets to help save money for the arts and education?
Yes.
That one was $100 per person that each of us paid for the lawyer to sue the township. Not to mention the fact that we also had to pay as a township member, as a township resident, we had to pay to help save us, if that makes sense.
There was a lot more than that. We all paid, but then we just kept chipping in because we did end up hiring an attorney. We did a pro se, the first one, which means you're doing it on your own without an attorney. we needed an attorney just because it would be better. And it did end up costing us, I think the total cost for us residents altogether, because we got donations from other folks, and it was probably about $3,000, I guess, out of our resident pockets. The township paid about $159 for that one.
$150,000.
$159 for that one. $159,000. So that was the one lawsuit. Yeah, so we paid quite a lot of our own money. So we shell money out because we're trying to save the township from our leaders.
But the best part about that was when that lawsuit went, we offered them a settlement for less money that they would, and they turned it down. They wanted to continue to fight it and spend more in legal fees rather than take the settlement that we offered.
Now, real quick, and I'm going to ask you, John, where was that money that was earmarked for? I mean, how did that come about that $800,000 was supposed to go to the Arts and Education Fund?
So that was money that was given to the township by the federal government, which was part of the American Rescue Plan Act, where Upper Darby Township received $41 million. That money was allocated as part of an ordinance that the council people put together and approved it unanimously, 11-0, to allocate these dollars to certain projects, and one of which was Upper Darby Arts and Education Foundation. The mayor at the time, Mayor Keffer, after it was approved by council, did not sign the ordinance to put it into effect, nor did she veto it. And so after 15 days, the ordinance becomes legal because of the fact that the mayor did not take any action whatsoever. So after 15 days of it being passed by council, it became into effect, but nothing was ever done. It was passed down, it was kicked down the field to the new mayor to do something with, and he waited about 5-6 months into his term to even give any updates on any of the ordinances that nothing ever happened to. And that's when we decided to take them to court.
Although we did ask many times at every meeting, people would get up and say, what's the status of these? It was about 7, 8, or 9 ordinances. It was a lot of money. It was like $14 million and
Yes, total.
other things too, including a senior center, which he didn't fund, though he was supposed to. And some other things, but and firehouses, but we asked him at every meeting, when is this money going to get allocated? Like, it's allocated, when are you going to start to distribute it? And he says, I will decide what ordinance goes forth and what doesn't. It's what I decide. And last I heard, it was what the council 11-0 decided, but he said no.
A dictatorship.
But most communities involved their residents to make the decisions on how ARPA money was to be spent.
Do you think that the entire township of Upper Darby was served with the process of how ARPA money was spent, or do you think there was just a bunch of names that are on this disbursement list from 2021 that has City of Philadelphia Water Department, disbursed ARPA funds dispersed, City of Philadelphia on 12/29/21 to the tune of $222,994.03.
I don't recall that being on the list. I would have to see that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to say, I know that they're going to explain that as being because we did sewer upgrades and they have to pay some of our
that
sewers
could be-
we have
yeah,
to pay the city of
that's
Philadelphia. But the point, though, is what you're getting at, Rich, though. Actually, there's a lot of, it's one of the reasons why the mayor didn't want to give the money to our children in Upper Darby for the Barclay Square Arts and Education Foundation is he actually told us that there may be some children that would come in from other townships like Springfield and Havertown that would benefit from it. So he didn't think that he was allowed to use the money for that. And we pointed out to him there has been a lot of distributions made to not-profits and to some schools like, some of our Catholic schools in the area, they don't limit it to the residents of that township where the Catholic school is. So it was a bogus argument, and we just don't know why he didn't want to help the kids.
So even with not wanting to help the kids, and I want to talk about something that's like very near and dear to my heart. Was there any disbursement of any ARPA funds to any veterans organization?
No,
To no American Legion?
no,
To no Marine Corps League?
no,
To no meetings that veterans are under this township's home rule charter and administrative code? When veterans hold meetings, there's supposed to be a reimbursement of said monies that it's used as expenses, and nothing went to veterans.
no, nothing.
Okay. Okay. And that's from the Barbara Ann Keffer administration and from the Ed Brown administration?
I would say primarily under Barbara Ann Keffer, because all of the funds were, the majority, 99% of the funds were allocated under Barbara Ann Keffer.
But there was
But 14 million of it was not touched, and it was punted down the field to Mayor Brown.
So with that money being punted down, there was still more disbursements underneath him that went to various nonprofits or various people that they associated with or did business with. Even with that, where he got 14 million kicked down to him, did any money go to any veterans organizations? Okay. Well, I want to talk about some of the conclusions when we're talking about money being dispersed, and this is from what I'm holding up right now, is the September 14th, 2022 Upper Darby Township Council Special Solicitors Report. And the reason why we're going a little ways back in time, folks, and not coming, we're going to bring you up to speed real soon, I promise. But we have to give you the backstories of why we're here. It's not just about Rich Bly. I know a lot of people said, oh, that was great, da, 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 da. And I'm going to explain that in a little bit. But this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. And I want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about what's in it. I'm just going to say that it was an investigation into how the money was spent, where it was spent, who spent it, basically the who, what, where, and whys of what happened to the money, okay? So let's get to the conclusions. Number one, unauthorized use of ARPA funds. This report concludes that the administration, without council authorization, directed the expenditure of ARPA funds in violation of the Home Rule Charter, sections 311 and 909. Number two, unauthorized use of restricted funds. Now, restricted funds are
Things that are limited for certain projects, like the fire, there's certain, I don't remember what they all are, but yeah, certain things that only be used that, they move them around.
So restricted funds are funds that are for specific areas in the budget or that can be applied to certain special projects. They are not to be touched. They are not to be moved. They are earmarked pretty much for those who need to understand that. Unauthorized use of restricted funds. This report concludes that the administration distributed monies from multiple confiscated funds without proper authorization and commingled them. Commingled means put it together with ARPA funds proceeds in an attempt to demonstrate that the ARPA proceeds had not been expended, which means that they played the shell game, guys. That's basically what it is, okay? So for all of those listening, that's what happened. Number three, failure to segregate ARPA proceeds. Now, there's a lot of folks that are listening that are in the business world and they understand the model of how money is supposed to be done. There are people that deal with P&Ls every day. There are people that understand how things are supposed to be done. When you have a CAO and you have a mayor and you have a former school board president that are all friends, and they all got money on the COVID through ARPA, school board, and here Failure to segregate ARPA funds. This report concludes that the administration violated Section 504C of the Home Rule Charter in commingling the restricted funds proceeds with unrestricted general funds money in an attempt to demonstrate on February 7th, 2022, that Upper Darby Township maintained an agreed cash balance in excess of the July 19th, 2021 initial ARPA deposit. That means that as soon as the deposit hit the bank, somebody was running around butt naked with jackpots in their eyes. What? I'm telling you, I'm going to use that. I love that. Liv, I love that. And I'm going to say that. I got that from Olivia Taylor, and you'll hear from her later too. But yeah, somebody cashed that check early in the tune of what, like 10 grand?
No, it was about six
Six?
million. So basically what had happened is that the ARPA funds came in July of 2021, half of what the township got total, so $20.8 million. They did move it into and commingled that with a capital reserve account, which under the ARPA guidelines was not illegal to do. And I'll talk about where that commingling came into play with the restricted funds. But they moved it into an account where there was, say, already $26 million. So there was a total of $46 million when they moved that balance in there. So at no time should that balance in that capital reserve account or general fund account should have dropped below 20.8 million, which is the first tranche of the ARPA funds. What had happened is in December, they moved $12 million out of that account. It brought the balance into that account down to $14 million or $13 million. So
even though it wasn't illegal, it's definitely unethical.
correct, because they took money from ARPA without the council's authorization or approval to do so.
So that goes to character.
Correct.
Okay.
And then what happened with those restricted funds where they played the shell game in February of 2022, because of the questioning that was going on about where is the $20 million, and they kept saying it's all there, money was moved from some of these restricted accounts. Money was moved, 14 million from that reserve account that had the ARPA funds was moved to open up a new account that made it look like the 20.8 million was always there.
John,
So that's where they commingled restricted funds.
Why does this sound like the Italian job?
Can I just say this real quick? John, didn't they also at one point have like all these multiple different accounts that they really didn't need and were just moving things? Am I remembering that
What are they
wrong?
called? Pliget accounts? The multiple
Well,
Pliget
Pliget
accounts?
account
different
is
accounts
a
and-
Pennsylvania government account where they earn interest and things like that off of. Well, they had a lot of accounts at the time because they were moving the banking relationship from one financial institution to another. So
Were
there
they
was,
playing with the float too, though, a little bit?
well, they were playing with a lot of things.
So when you say playing with the flow, didn't this money draw interest?
Money did draw interest, yeah.
And what happened to that interest?
The interest for the ARPA interest, they could do whatever they want with that because it's not the federal government's money.
Okay.
So they were able. They don't need council's basically approval to say that it has to go to any of the ARPA guidelines.
But it drew interest in you know in a world, especially emerging out of COVID, you know, you would think that they would take that interest and apply it back into the interest of the township
Yeah, well, they applied it to the budget to balance their budget because
because they because that would
Because
go to
they
number four,
overspent, right.
because that would go to number 4, overspending of the 2021 fiscal budget. This report concludes that the administration violated Section 504A2 of the Home Rule Charter under the direction of former CAO Vincent Raggio. 2021 fiscal year expenditures exceeded the 2021 authorized budget by 1.7 million. Can you explain what the heck happened there?
Yeah, I remember that. I kind of forgotten this part of it. There's so many things, you put them out of your mind. But we did question them about, that you're going to be over the budget. Vince didn't seem to think it was a problem. We kept saying, well, you can't. It's actually a violation of the law, and he should, and according to the law, should be held personally responsible for repaying money over the budget. What is supposed to happen is if you're not going to make your budget, you have to come back to council and say, hey, we're not going to make our budget. But no, this administration and this current administration and the past administration felt they could just do whatever they want with that money. And they used, it was clear that they did use COVID money to cover it.
Now, how many missed budgets have they had in a row? Becky?
Oh, I would imagine probably all of them.
We're talking about maybe,
if
2, 3, 4?
Could have been. But as I recall, somebody said, I don't know who it was on council or the administration, said the budgets are more of a suggestion. They didn't really view that something they actually had to follow.
That was the solicitor.
So,
The solicitor said it was.
so let me also say this: this was the report of one auditor. The township actually spent a boatload of money to hire another auditor that would report what they wanted them to say. And that their auditor said that going over budget is not a big deal. It was only 1.9%. It's not a big deal. $1.7 million is a huge deal to go over budget. Huge. If you're at $10 trillion, it might not be as big, huge, but they think they're working percentages. They don't understand that dollars are what matters.
Well, there is a bright part of that report, number 5, use of ARPA proceeds to fund pension obligations. This report concludes that ARPA funds were not used to make the pension payments in December of 2021. So that was something that we're afraid of because this has longer reaching effects when this type of things happen, I'm assuming.
You're more the expert, John, but that's illegal to use ARPA money to fund pensions. That was one of our concerns because they actually, with this moving of the money back in December or spending it in early January, they needed to move it because they didn't have enough money in December to pay their bills in December 21. So we were concerned that they used the money to make that pension payment, which is due in December. Turns out, according to our auditor, that they did not.
Well,
But
the auditor used kind of like a first in, first out process. But I still stand by that they used ARPA funds because when they withdrew it from the account, they took 12 million, 6 of which was their money and 6 of which was for ARPA. And it just so happened to be, it was actually 6.3 in ARPA. It just happened to be that to fund the pensions, it was about 6.2 million. So I think that was just, again, part of the smoke and mirrors. But the auditor gave them the benefit of the doubt as a first in, first out of when funds were coming into the account and being paid out of the account.
Okay. So we'll get to, and this is the last part that sticks out at me more than anything else. The material misrepresentations to the federal government. Now, I don't know about anybody out here on CMP Radio, cmpradio.net. I don't know about anybody else out here in Upper Darby Township. I don't know. Something about misrepresentations to the federal government scares the hell out of me. Something about those words. This report concludes that the certification of the federal government was false. It is unclear and cannot be determined without interviewing or gathering some evidence that the administration willingly and knowingly violated the law by lying on a federal form. Who wants to take a swing at that?
So on a quarterly basis, they are required to report the expenditures of ARPA. And I think where he was going with that was that because you have to report this, and if you fail to file your report, you're in violation of the law. But the numbers that they report because they said they didn't use any funds when they really did. And then each quarter when they report, and this doesn't have to do with that specific report, but each quarter when they report, it seems to be that the numbers constantly change when you look at year-to-date expenditures. So basically, it's in line with what's being said right there.
They also have to report as part of the that form that they send in is revenues that they have for the year, the base year. Both John and I, we've looked at the financial statements. We cannot tie in the numbers they're putting on those forms. We've both looked. We've done RTKs to see. I wanted to get the calculation how they arrived at the number. That's privilege. That's work product. They can't give that to me. But the numbers, you can't find them, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of us get up here and push for audited financial statements. They're always late. So the numbers that they're working off, they're just working off like somebody's general ledger spreadsheet. Like they're not. I don't even know where they're getting the numbers from.
So again, this is the platform now. Like I said, this is all a backstory on cmpradio.net. This is all a backstory. This is the foundation from 2022, guys. And now we're going to get up to speed. We're going to come off of the old administration, and we're going to get to the new administration. And the way that I'm going to do this is bring up Brian Burke, former council president, former council member. I know, surprise. Surprise. Because I want people to understand just how much I'm going to legitimize our complaint with a former council member and council president who has been there, who has been behind the scenes, who understands what exactly is going on right now. And take it away, Brian. Introduce yourself to an adoring public.
Thanks, Rich. Brian Burke, past council president, from 2022 to 2024, councilman at large for 4 years. You know, Rich, you talk about bring it to speed now. It all started with the tickets. You know, everything started with the ticket violation.
So the Upper Darby parking scandal that happened with the former council person, Sakella Coles, who became the parking director?
Yes.
Okay.
So it all started with the past administration where we found out that the tickets were not being recorded. There was some missing money. There was an investigation. We called for an investigation from an outside source. The past administration used their inside investigation of the township. And of course, I don't believe we saw the real numbers for that. And then, Mr. Joe Holden, Channel 3, not only did one story, but 2 stories, and then just did a backup story 3 or 4 months ago. Actually on Martin Luther King Day, I believe, got a hold of me and asked me if I was satisfied. No, I wasn't satisfied. Wasn't satisfied with the results or the answers we got, Rich, because our district attorney, when he called in the beginning to bring Sakella Coles up to media, there were 7 or 10 news outlets there. And then all of a sudden, she was only charged for $3,400. I don't believe you call 7 news outlets out for a $3,400 crime. I believe it was more like 40,000 that was missing, where the money was going to outside credit unions to change into dollar bills and coming back. I believe also that things were swept under the carpet. I said that on the news back in February on a small thing with Joe Holden. I still believe there's a lot of things to be overturned. And I believe the township, as we're in dire straits of money for the last 2-3 years, that we lost over $1 million in those tickets that were never issued, never collected on but everybody forgets there was a program that every time there was a ticket, there was a company that the administration hired. I believe they got somewhere between 60 and 75 cents every time they sent a letter out. And that was the passport that we used, the organization, to collect money. So we were still paying that fee at the time. We brought this to the solicitors, myself and another council person at the time, and we had a meeting, and they sat on it for months because they knew they were wrong. It's a domino effect from that point on.
So this was under the Keffer administration.
That was under the Keffer administration.
Okay, so we have the parking scandal, we have the township special solicitors report, we got money moved around, we got money missing, we got money misappropriated, we've got people being charged with a crime and then not charged with a crime, and then we now have a lawsuit from out of Clifton Heights, correct?
That's correct, and that lawsuit was a class action suit brought because I believe somebody had some tickets and they felt that you could go pay them at the township building, and then you would get a notice from the county that you didn't pay it. So nobody knows what was happening with the money, and that's where that lawsuit started. And of course, the township administration probably paid close to $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000. John, I'm sure you have the numbers of how much to fight this. And a continuation of the past administration and this administration using the taxpayers' and residents' money to fight lawsuits that they knew they were going to lose. The arts and education, $800,000.
Whoa. So the settlement was $800,000.
That's correct.
And the vote that it was 11-0 bipartisan, which you were a part of,
That's correct.
was also $800,000.
That's correct.
So do you think, and this is just your opinion, I'm just asking for it, I'm not asking for your legal definition of it, do you think had they have been successful in getting that $800,000 that was earmarked for the arts and education, do you believe that that money would have been used to settle that lawsuit? Just your opinion.
In my opinion, Rich, it's hard to believe anything gets settled anywhere, because when we had 11-0 vote at council with the past administration, we were told 2 hours after that meeting that they went to the leaders and asked them for $400,000 back of that $800,000.
What was that for?
Because the administration didn't want to give the $800,000. Because there wasn't $800,000 to give. And I don't believe there's enough money out there to give what we need, where we need to pay. We never should have gave them the money, $3.2 million back in February to keep the township moving. We never should have. We should have held our guns and asked where the money's going. That was our fault as council giving them the money, but we should have never gave them, because I think we would have found out that there was no money. I don't believe there's any money now. Contracts were settled. I'm not sure if our men and women in the township have been paid their increase.
I know the township people have not gotten their retro yet.
Thank you. That's what I was getting at. So there was a deal made, what I heard, in my opinion, that certain groups were getting it first. And I don't know if they have it or they're getting it in this check. But I'm sure people will be listening. I'm sure if the pay period's this week, they'll all get it.
Fire department got theirs last pay, and they were supposed to get
Right.
it this
Yeah.
past, and they did
They
not.
did not. So,
Wow. So, just wow. So now we fast forward, we're pretty much 1 year and 2 months, 3 months into the Ed Brown administration. And
excuse me, Rich. How many meetings have we had with this new administration?
you mean,
How many council meetings have they had compared to when I was a president of council in a year period?
We had like one every week.
yeah. I believe that in the beginning of this administration, we were at council meetings every week for 5 weeks straight. 8 weeks, every week in January, every week in February, to fix the problems caused by Sean Kilkenny and Associates. That's the name of his law firm.
That's correct.
Okay.
Hey, Rich, I believe that, those meetings aren't free. They're out of the norm.
How much
sure.
would you think that Sean Kilkenny gets per meeting every time he sits his ass down in a chair?
Well, himself, probably it's part of his retainer. I'm talking about the 2 or 3 other lawyers that, sometimes he brings, or maybe somebody that's not past the bar when he brought.
So, again, see, this is why CMPRadio.net is having these discussions in a town hall format, so that way you can find out exactly what we are doing and why we are here. Because again, I know the story is, why did Rich Bly call Mayor Ed Brown the Cowboys fan? And we're going to get to that. But before we get to that, we need to start talking about this past year with this mayor. And I'm just going to say this. I called him a narcissist because he refuses to meet with the people. He refuses to meet with Republicans. He refuses to meet with anyone that is white unless they are Democrat or they are associated with any type of business or anything that gives him a photo op. He refuses, and I say refuses, to sit down and talk to the women that are here on the at the table, and he refuses to deal fairly with the men that come up before him and talk to them. And this is a mayor that has advocated for violence against a grandmother, a citizen, and an activist in Olivia Taylor. So, Liv, come on up here. Stop playing around. Yeah, you come on up here, because we're not playing around. We're not playing around. Just because you have to understand, for everyone that's listening, and we have this time, and people want to know why. I know people want to know why I said what I said to him, but I'm not the story.
I'm going to start your clock.
We want her to feel comfortable and at home.
Speaking to the mic.
Hi, everybody. I'm still trying to deal with this cold. I'm about 75%. Olivia Taylor, grandmother, community activist. I've been in Upper Darby since 2007. I've been coming to the meetings since 2016, and I never left. Never missed a meeting since 2016. What got me started was a young lady who needed help, and she knew I went to the council meetings. And at this time, we had a different council person who I later found out was nothing more than a slumlord, and what he was doing was taking advantage of the black community, the lower end, I'm gonna say, not the poor, the second ward. I'll call it the low-income area.
So in Upper Darby, that's the
In
sixth.
Upper Darby, that's the sixth
That's the
district.
sixth district.
That's the sixth
And
district.
in the second ward is primarily where the majority of poor minorities.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And he was targeting single mothers with kids. Yeah.
Single mothers with kids,
Yes.
women on Section 8. Okay.
Yeah. And what he would do is, what he did, he had about maybe 30 to 40 houses, and they were dilapidated, not up to code. And he would target the ones that were in distress, get their money. If they would complain about what was happening in the house, then he would start evictions on them. But this one lady who came, young girl who came to get help from me, I showed her what to do and how to do it. And this young lady has her own house now because she countersued him, and now she has her own house. God, the guy we serve is awesome.
Awesome.
And this idiot is somewhere doing whatever he does.
But again, and I want to say this for context, how I met Olivia was she knocked on my door and said, "Hey,
Come on.
do you know what's going on with these people up here, 100 Garrett Road?" I'm like, "No," and I really didn't care, you know. She's like, "You need to come to these meetings." So, just like anybody, and I want to say this, like anybody, I was like, "Man, government gonna do what the government's gonna do." But then we had a shooting on our block
Yes. We
for the
had-
for the first time.
for the first time.
For the first time. And where we lived in Upper Darby on Kent Road, this is a very quiet community.
Yep.
And when I say quiet, the police literally just go down the block to go to the next call.
That's right.
It's just literally a fast way for the fire trucks to go to the next call. There's never been a fire on this block. This is a close-knit community that was formerly Greek, that became a mixed community of neighbors
Yep.
that 70% of us knew.
Yep.
So Olivia's walking down, knocking on doors, talking to people, and she got to my door and said, "You need to come to these meetings." So when I got to the meetings,
Never left.
I never left.
Never left.
And it was because of the person that she just described, the former council person.
Former
His
council
name is
person.
Sik Sadiq, former
Yeah.
council person. This individual in particular pled guilty to being a slumlord.
Sure did.
Sure did. And I'm not making this up, and I'm not disparaging him. He pled guilty for being a slumlord. We've had pictures of some of the property, and I remember us going out to Springfield for a seminar.
Yes, with the HUD.
Go ahead. You want to talk about that a little bit?
And we got a lot of information on what to do and how to do it when we have situations like that.
With HUD, with
HUD.
people on Section 8, with
People on
folks on
Section
Section 8,
8, yes.
especially specifically single moms.
Single moms.
Okay.
So now I'm equipped with what to do and how to do it if somebody needs help now because of those seminars. And again, I was not into politics when I first moved here. I was still doing me in the beginning. But I think what had happened when she, as a mom, and I saw her need, I said, something got to be done.
Right.
And once, like I said to you, I never left.
Right.
I never left. And then I seen the community starting to deteriorate. I definitely had to get involved. Yeah, so I've never left. Now, I'm just going to jump the gun a little bit.
Go ahead.
What happened back on January 17th was absolute disgrace. I don't want to talk about it because it's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing investigation, and
right.
it's
So I can't go into
So we can't
detail.
go into detail, but let's just put it like this. Let's just put it like this, and I'm gonna say it from
Yeah.
my viewpoint.
It's a disgrace.
There's certain actions that we're taking in council that has never happened before in council to anybody else
In history
in history of Upper Darby
of
Township.
the Darby Township.
Upper Darby Township has always had the best relationship with its residents and citizens, and there was never any fear of any type of action that required law enforcement or required
Right,
any type
because-
of ejections.
Exactly.
Because council people could respond to their constituents.
Exactly.
The mayor would respond to their constituents, and solicitors were just quiet.
Exactly.
And they were giving their legal opinion, and then they would shut up and not hold court.
Exactly.
As if they were running this township of Upper Darby Township, seated dead smack in the middle,
Right.
as if they were the king.
Exactly.
So
I
tell me
started-
what that was like real quick. Hold on, I'm gonna come swing right back to you, Brian. Tell me what that was like sitting next to this solicitor while he's giving you bad advice, about this money and how to take care of this township. I mean, like, what was so believable about this man that a majority of council was so convinced that he was right in what he was doing?
So the best part about being president of council, you set the agenda. And you would have an agenda meeting Monday before Wednesday's meeting. You know, administration would come to the table, ask the president of council, ask the solicitor to, can we move this along? Well, You're one vote as the president of council. If you don't want it on the agenda, it doesn't go on the agenda. So towards the last 12 or 13 months, as I was president of council, they found it a hard time to get things on the agenda. But as soon as I was finished my 4 years, they got everything they wanted on their agenda, and they got it in for a vote. We've had conversations with the solicitor. Well, we really need this, or we really need this. They just said we really need it. They didn't give the other 10 council people have a conversation before it would go on the agenda. It would just go on the agenda. So I felt that, and even past president before me, Laura Wentz, she had a rough time with a lot of things, but that was during COVID, and a lot of things were done by the phone and, last minute, and, things were difficult then, but she had a hard time after 2 years, and then that's when I became president of council, when we had, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats vote me as president of council. And anything that I was told on a Monday at our agenda meeting, I would, think about it, and then I would get back to them on Tuesday before it had to be up on, the township website, whether it was going to go on the agenda. I think at this last 14, 15 months, everything the administration or the solicitor wants on the agenda, it just goes on the agenda. I don't think council's knows what's going on.
So wait a minute. Hold on. Back up. So council president's job is to set the agenda, but when you would come in basically to work, there was an agenda, basically. I mean, you were there, but it was getting printed no matter what.
No, not when I was there. I shot a lot of things down. I pushed it back, 2 weeks, because I wanted to talk to other council people what they thought. I wanted to think about it. I need to educate myself on certain things. We all know that, quite a few times in a meeting, as the meeting went, I actually took it off the agenda during the meeting because I didn't feel comfortable, or other council people didn't feel comfortable.
So, in feeling uncomfortable, how would you describe the situation when it came to the solicitor violating the specific rights of Ms. Taylor and myself? I know that's a hard question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, Brian, but this is where we're coming to why I said what I said. And you, of all people, and we've had this conversation before, understand why we're all here because of me.
So,
Olivia.
Rich, when I was president of council, I didn't throw anybody out of meetings. Olivia, you were very passionate many times. There are some times, Olivia, I did not get out of my seat. I just asked you, that's enough, Miss Taylor, that's enough, Miss Taylor. You got mad at me because I said your name too many times on video. So stop calling my name. Rich, there's been many times that you've been up in front of us, whether it's, a good time or a bad time of that day for you. There's some days that, Rich, I couldn't even hear a word you were saying. But we'd walk outside at the end of the meeting, talk for 10 or 15 minutes, There were some times there were 2 times, Rich, I'd left my seat and walked over, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Rich is fine. He's just passionate. We're all passionate. Everybody at this table, everybody here is passionate. You can't be passionate now. Laura Wentz let you be passionate. I'm sorry. Some people are allowed to be passionate at the council meetings, and most of us are not allowed to be.
Correct.
Because at the last meeting, one was more passionate than I've ever seen that actually crossed the line, but we don't have any ropes anymore. But we had ropes when Rich and Olivia were there, and then the ropes are gone around the microphone. But when we crossed that line, and we tacked another councilwoman, and then there was an apology last meeting, but we still allowed it anyway. So seems like a double standard. When I was the president of council, I was faced with free the funds, with our own council people wearing masks, free the funds, signs on cars, and signs in the council meeting, free the funds. We did free the funds with 11-0 vote, But then this past administration took back those funds, and then they did not free the funds. But they did free the funds the way they wanted to, not the way 11-0 council went. And that's disturbing to our residents, to our emergency service, to our police department, to our education, to our recreation. We thought we had a good deal with 11-0 vote, and we were sideswiped on that 11-0 vote for over 10 months.
So whatever happened to PAL?
Well, PAL's up and running now.
No. That's not the no. That's no.
So when I was
I know
president of council,
I know it's up and running now. See, this is the type of stuff where I'm saying that we can't step over what happened to PAL, because what's happening when PAL disappeared before COVID is the reason why we have some of the crimes that are going on inside of Upper Darby Township now with the youth. So we have to, like I said, it's going to be uncomfortable conversations, bro. Welcome to the podcast, cnpradio.net. All right? This is welcome to the wonderful world of Rich Bly. This is how it gets down. And I'm trying to tell you, there are folks watching, and we're going to be straight to the street with this. Straight to the street, okay? We don't need to inquire. We don't need Channel 6. Hey, Barstool, looking for you. But what I'm saying is this. Some of the things and the decisions that were made inside of council had a direct effect on the street with money missing, money misappropriated, or money not being put to a program that would have kept a lot of these kids off the street and not become drug dealers under COVID. What happened of why they dismantled PAL, and why did it all of a sudden come back quietly?
So when I was president of council, I was fighting for a boxing gym in 69th Street, a Must Fight Boxing Club. Council did approve $50,000 in the very beginning of COVID for PAL, but after so many months of what I understood, that our charter was not up to date. Not exactly where that fell. Some state representatives tried to fast track it. It really never got fast tracked. But we did reach out to, when we had the nonprofits, I believe it was $1.3 million in nonprofits that council did approve and did get out to the streets to the nonprofits. Must Fight Boxing Club did get part of that money. I believe it was $160,000 or $80,000 or something like that. I forget the number, but that was to set up young kids in the neighborhood to run quick 10-week camps. And that was a boost for that boxing club which is Pennsylvania Golden Gloves, Must Fight Boxing Club, that they're tied into PAL anyway at the state of Pennsylvania for the boxing. So it slowly got moving, but there was a pretty good gap of, close to 18 months, as you said, Rich. But we did allocate that $50,000. I believe that was the first allocation. And it sat untapped for a good bit. PAL was great. PAL was great, 30 years ago, down to 69th Street with, flag, football, baseball, and all that. It's tough. It's tough. You got to have the resources. You have to have the money. The Anthony Beck Camp was part of the PAL prior to me being on council. Police officers were all involved in that. They did a great job. Hopefully, not just we have boxing, that we have other things. But, also, PAL was supposed to get their jump start with the new community center, which is supposed to be like right around the corner from here.
You mean
Rich?
that? You mean that hole that's in the ground?
Yeah. So
You mean the old community center or the old school registration building? When I tell people, listen, before I lived on Kent Road, I lived on Copley. Okay, I lived on Copley, and I registered my kids from the K Center on up. You know what I mean? I came into the township, got a piece of property, put my kids in school, boom. When I tell you that I could go in, get an answer to a question, get everything done, easy peasy, done in a day, done in less than a day. Now, I really feel bad for some of you as young parents. I really do, with the way that you guys get it. But that hole in the ground really bothers me. It bothers me because we had a big ribbon cutting ceremony. We had all this news press and you know, it was the doggone near marching band, and it's still a hole in the wall. I mean, hole in the ground.
It always will be, Rich. The property was too small.
We know that.
Yeah, and it just, the costs was way over budget.
But,
you know.
we knew that because of the old parketeria that was next to it, near there, that you wouldn't be able to do anything with it, or people would come with it, because that was soon to be demoed anyway. And there's restrictions on how you can build, because that's pretty much over a cliff.
Yes. True that.
Okay.
The township paid for a feasibility study to be done for that. Twice. So, and they had an architect that they engaged to do plans. So we paid a lot of money for nothing, and it just wonders, whose friend are they? Like, why would we waste all that money? They should have known, an architect or the person, or the engineer that did the feasibility study should have known that's not going to fit.
The architect knew.
It doesn't fit.
He knew, but he sued him. She didn't want to pay him, and he sued anyway.
I mean, the township, I'll talk out. The township just seems to throw money away and just keeps throwing good money after bad constantly. They never learn from their mistakes. They never look back at anything. They just keep doing things that are stupid.
And for the amount of money that we pay to our CAO and other people like him, they should not be making these kinds of mistakes. It should not happen. It's just not. It's not.
So how much money is the new CAO making?
196.
And he says he's worth over 200K, but I have not seen any results.
196,000 a year and benefits.
And how many mistakes has this CAO made since then?
Well, Rich, I believe, with all the right to knows, and the next meeting, he'll get a pretty good count of how many mistakes he's made.
But he also can't answer any questions. If a resident comes up and asks him a question about something, he never knows the answer. He always says, "Oh, I'm going to have to get back to you." He never know. I don't think he knows the township well enough, or as he likes to call it, the city.
So,
So we have a new CAO, we have a new L&I guy who's making, how much money is the new L&I guy making?
I think it's 130, 160, 150.
He just got a 33% increase.
is that a bonus, or is that an increase?
That's an increase.
An increase.
Okay.
So
We'll see when we do the next right to knows.
So we have quality individuals brought into this team to do a superior job and improve this township, and both have not met the standard as of yet. Is that in the opinion of constituents, taxpayers, and residents? Is that your opinion?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to get to the part of why I called the mayor a Cowboys fan. So, as Brian has attested, and for everybody out here, you have to understand who I am. I am a very passionate person. I am a person who cares. I'm a person who loves, and I love and I care very, very hard. Philly, like I said, I was born and raised Philly, ran the streets of Philly. Philly will always be my home. Shout out to Philly, West Philly, South, North, all of y'all. Love y'all, like for real. But I moved to Upper Darby. I could have moved anywhere in this country with the types of jobs that I had at the time. And I chose Upper Darby. I chose Upper Darby because of the close proximity to my family. I chose Upper Darby because of the nostalgia of coming up here with my grandmother and shopping at Sears and shopping at the stores. I chose Upper Darby for the public transportation system. I chose Upper Darby because the streets were clean. I chose Upper Darby because the police force, and this is very, very true for me, and I don't care how nobody feels about this, the police force of Upper Darby Township has never in its history shot an unarmed black kid in the back. Okay? That's how highly trained our officers are. And I have the utmost respect for that, because you can go anywhere else in the USA and pull it up, and some kid somewhere, and I'm a father that was raising children, and that is one of my biggest fears, that that would happen to my child, because it happens in this country. Not saying Upper Darby or any place else does it, but when you look at the statistics, Upper Darby Township is one of the few cities in the entire nation that has never had an incident like that, and that made my decision. That made my decision. I got to know folks here. I got to care about folks, and I made a lot of friends. But when I started going to council meeting and I saw how ineffective that we had leaders, and I saw that we had people that weren't listening, I did try to talk to them at first. I did go to their offices and sit down with them and speak to them. I did go to my state representative's office. I did go to my state senator's office and speak to them and say, hey, these are the issues. These are the community concerns. Can we get your help? Can you pledge resources? How can I help? How can I be of assistance? These folks did nothing for us. They did nothing for our community. They lied to us. So, one day, I came up with this idea of wanting to have a celebration after going to the Bangladesh celebration, after going to the Greek festival, after going to the Italian festival, and after going to so many ethnic festivals. I came up with the idea and said to myself, why don't we have a celebration of Black Americans in Upper Darby Township? Why is it that all of these ethnic groups have these great parties and food and music, and we don't have a damn thing? So I started to push for Juneteenth. And Juneteenth became a law, became a holiday, it became celebrated, and now everybody in Delco understands and celebrates it. And that's a great thing. That's a great thing. But at the end of the day, what I taught in Juneteenth was about freedom and freedom of speech. My rights were violated by this township. I don't have a lawsuit against them. I'm not considering a lawsuit against them, because if I consider a lawsuit and get a lawyer and decide to sue them, you're looking at the people who will have to pay me. These are the people that would have to pay me. So a lot of folks think, oh, you can get big money, dude. No, I can't get big money, because if I get big money, that means they don't eat. That means they don't pay their car note. That means that they don't get to take their grandkids anywhere for the summer. That's what that means. And that's what they know. They know that, oh, he's just going to be sue happy. I understood it because they explained it to me. Rich, if you sue them, you're suing us. I said, don't worry about it. I ain't never going to sue them. But when they took away my right to speak, this solicitor, Sean Kilkenny, and Ed Brown, and Barbara Ann Keffer, and everybody that voted no to this man to speak, I decided that I would take my appeal to the people on Facebook. And when I did, these are the people that showed up for me. And another person by the name of John DeMasi, and another person by the name of Paul Ann Sabatino, and my brother Brian Sharif Taylor and Tina Hamilton, may they both rest in peace, those sergeants that protected us and worked with us, Recovery Without Barriers, that came aboard, and we worked together to start drug addiction and unhoused programs here at Upper Darby Township when the township and the county wouldn't. We worked together inclusively, no matter what our political stature was, no matter what our color was, no matter what our age was, no matter what our gender was. We had a purpose, and that was to serve our people in Upper Darby Township, including the transients that come through, including those that are being fed by this drug machine that's out here in these streets. We had deals with the drug dealers down at 69th Street that our team could go down there and not be touched. Yes, we did. We talked to them. We said, we can't stop what you're doing, and we are not here to do that at all. That was the message. That's not our job. Our job is not to police drug dealers. Our job is not to confront them. Our job was to say, hey, you see what they're doing over there? They're trying to save lives. Let them alone. And it's been that way for 5-6 years now. Recovery without barriers at 69th Street doesn't get touched. They don't get molested. They don't get accosted. They don't get threatened because they're doing the work. But this woman, Pauline Sabatino, was told that she was unqualified. This organization was told that they were unqualified. This organization was disrespected at council meetings and talked about, and their businesses threatened. And I had to sit back and watch that for 2 years when my speech was held from me. So you have to realize the anger that was building inside of me when I watched people who stood up for me, who came and fought for me, being ridiculed, being persecuted, being told that they had no value. This is what was said. These folks here, no value. When I saw what they did to my sister Olivia, when I saw what they were trying to do to me and how she came to my aid, how she was the only person to help get me out of that jam along with Brian Sharif Taylor, to get me out of that jam of the false charges that got put on me with a lie that was said in appeals court that I was a threat to another person when the person that was a threat had a gun. And that anger built in me. So as I watched all of these things, and finally, after 2 years, when I got my right to speak, thanks to John DeMassey, thanks to everybody that's seated here, when I got my right back to speak, I had 2 years of frustration to get off of my chest. And I damn sure was going to put it right to where it belonged to. I started with Andrew Heyman, and we know that he's gone. And I gave him the boot and the send-off, and he better not even come back. And if he's got anything to say, Andrew Heyman, I know you work in Chester, bro, and I'm in Chester all the time. And I already told you that, how I feel about you. That's why you got escorted out, told to keep your mouth shut. I'm not threatening that man. I don't like him. I want him to know that I don't like him. I want him to understand I don't like him, period. So if he has anything to say to me, I'm always a public person. You can say it, Andrew. You are not a council member anymore. But what I said, again, I didn't know that I was going to say what I was going to say about the mayor being a Cowboys fan. First of all, I knew the mayor was a Cowboys fan years ago. I did. It's in his profile. You got, see, this is what I'm saying, like, no. I knew he was a Cowboys fan, but see, the thing about it is, no. I knew he was a Cowboys fan, but see, here's the thing, and I'm gonna say this: when you have a democratically controlled area, would you really think that that being a Cowboys fan would supersede being mayor? Not in a million years. And this is why I'm saying that this is so amazing, because I had no idea. Again, I had no idea that this would get the response that it did. So let me be very honest with you. Again, I don't write speeches. Everybody knows that about me. I don't write speeches. If I write a speech, it's for somebody else. I don't write speeches for myself. My mother, my father have given me the ability to speak and use context words and stuff like that. And I had something for Mr. David Banto out of the 6th District about the abandoned cars and, that his area is in trouble because, it is. And I was ready and prepared for him. I had pictures and all that other type of stuff of the abandoned vehicles in case he said he don't know what he's talking about or whatever. I was ready for him. When I got to Mr. Brown, I knew that I wanted to champion my friends. But Everybody had already heard that he had violated my rights, and it didn't seem to matter or care to anybody in the general public that he violated my rights. Everybody had already heard that he stole. And you would think that being a thief and stealing would be like the deal breaker. You would think. So I wasn't really thinking about, wow, let me put this out here about him, because the general public heard that $40,000 of HUD money went to his nonprofit illegally. You didn't heard all of the evidence. You didn't seen all of the evidence. So I wouldn't think that anybody would care that Mayor Ed Brown was a Cowboys fan. So, I mean, you got to understand that. So I'm standing there, and folks, I need you to understand one great thing about me is that my God is good, and he is good all the time. My faith is what it is. It's not the same as everybody at the table. I believe that I have ultimate faith. I believe that I have unwavering faith. That's what I believe. I believe that I can do anything. I do. I believe that, and nobody can ever take that from me, because my Father gave that to me. My Father also gave me my voice. My Father also gave me the ability to speak. My Father said, take your chin out of your chest and walk with your face held high. You are a child of God, and don't you ever let anybody tell you anything different. That's what I got from my Father. And a lot of people don't like that. They love that in other people, but they don't seem to like it in black men. But with that being said, Ed Brown, with the history of us in our culture of not having the ability to speak, Ed Brown, along with the solicitor, decided that they were going to conspire to stop my speech. And I'm saying it very plainly, because it's not slander or libel or anything like that, because there's text messages to the matter. There are text messages with my name on it to block my speech. Now, they've been right to know, but they haven't been published, because somebody gonna go when they do become published. Somebody gonna go, because it's a crime. What they did is criminal. So I'm standing there, and if you look on the video, I put my chin in my chest, because I was defeated at that point. And I'm being very honest. I was defeated at that point. I did not know what to say to this man to get him to budge, to get him to show some type of compassion, to show some type of anything. And when I put my chin in my chest and I said my prayer and I said, Lord, please give me what I need to show this man that you are God. Because it's not me when I speak. That voice that you hear, that passion that you hear, that's not me. That's the God in me speaking. And it's always going to be the God in me speaking. And I'm always going to be directed at who it needs to be directed at, and that's the evildoers who go against the righteous. And that's my job. And that's what I was put on this planet for. And I looked at that man, and I'm like, I don't know what to say, Lord. And the next thing I know, like a big old jackpot, like a big old pinball, like Free Guy, I saw the two words, Dallas Cowboys. Thank you, Lord. Why do we have to have a Dallas Cowboys fan as mayor? You see what their leadership is, and that's what you put your trust in. The comparisons, the way Upper Darby Township is just like the comparisons to how this particular franchise in sports is being run. Dysfunctional, overpriced talent, individuals who commit crimes, and people who have promised the world that it would be better, but have resigned themselves to failure, especially in the past 12 years. So as Philadelphians who are used to winning or have that winning attitude, when I said that, it went viral. Because apparently, you could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, you could be trans, you could be straight, you can be anything you want to be, but you can't be a Cowboys fan.
Absolutely. This
So-
is Eagle Nation here.
So I just want to say thank you, Lord, because this was not my idea. And I'm being very honest about that. I was divinely inspired. It just came to me, like I said, and I let it fly because my mother and my father gave me my voice. And I refuse to let any man, whether it's Sean Kilkenny, whether it's Ed Brown, whether it's Mr. Gallagher, whether it's anybody up there at 100 Garrett Road, anybody, the superintendent of police, if anybody thinks that they're going to ever stop me from speaking on behalf of the people again, you got another thing coming. The next time, because I see that you guys are getting a little bit anxious, and I want to put this warning out to you, they're getting a lot violent. Protect yourselves. They're getting a lot violent. I underestimate the amount of violence. I knew that they would get testy, but they're really violent, and they really don't care. They don't care for the value anymore. And that's what it is, because those guys that sit up there at 100 Garrett Road, they're from that clique and that community, and they stir that pot. And they watched another person come in and cross the lines and attack another person, and other people have gotten attacked, and they have done nothing about it. So please, I'm telling you, protect yourself at all times. At all times. Do not let them invade your space. Do not let them harm your children or your grandchildren. I say that with earnest, because from where I'm sitting and from where I'm at in the street and from what I get talked to by my young bulls out there, they're like, yo, OG, you got to watch yourself. I know. But to my people, I love you. And I think that'll do it for this podcast. We want to thank everybody for coming out. We want to thank our magnificent team here. I want to thank cmpradio.net for coming down and really, helping us out down here in Upper Darby Township. And yes, the wide, wonderful world of Rich Bly at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays will starting next Tuesday. I'm back. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
cmpradio.net, man. I want to thank everybody out in Upper Darby that took time to talk about what they feel the problem is. Repeated constantly was the missing money. Look, I get it. We all have our things, right? The more we judge each other, the worse it gets. Now, we're either going to stick together and figure this out, or we're going to continue to be led astray and lied to. I'm not from Upper Darby, so I really can't speak on what's happening up there. They just did. So, if you're from Upper Darby, get down with these people, talk to these people, you feel me? And try to figure out how you can help. Be of assistance to your community. cmpradio.net. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Go Birds. Right? But, yeah, have a great night. Be safe. And remember, I love you on purpose.